Hello everyone, in this video I want to talk about the 10 top reasons why I think everyone who loves gaming should jump into Cyberpunk 2077 when it launches on November 19th. Now, I usually prefer playing multiplayer games, especially games in such a big scope. That's why I enjoy Destiny so much, because it was a big game, there were so many activities, and I really enjoyed meeting friends online and playing with them. Now we know that multiplayer won't come from day one. We probably can expect it to be released maybe, I don't know, quite a lot of time after, because they plan to release the free DLCs, and maybe after this we're going to see a multiplayer. And we don't even know what type of multiplayer it will be. And usually when I play big games, something at this scope like Cyberpunk 2077, I prefer playing it with friends. And I remember when I play Destiny Vanilla, the first Destiny, I made so many friends online. It was so much fun just, logging in and know that friends just waiting to play with you. This was such an amazing experience. Now, knowing that Cyberpunk 2077 won't have that, there's still plenty of reason for me to dive into this game and why I'm so excited playing this game when it comes out on November 19th. Now, in many games, for example, when I played Destiny, I didn't even care about the lore because I thought it's just a joke. But I enjoyed the gameplay. But here, I think it's the first time that I really spend a lot of time reading about the world of Cyberpunk. Now, we also need to understand that CD Projekt Red didn't need to create the entire lore from zero, right? Create the entire story, backstory for every character. Because Cyberpunk is actually, Cyberpunk 2077 is based on a tabletop role-playing game written by Mike Pondsmith. And it was published by R. Tolosarian Games in 1988. This was the first edition. And then in 1990, Cyberpunk 2020 was released. And then in 2005, Cyberpunk version 3. So we already have the background story which this game is based on. And of course, we're going to see more events, new events that of course are related to the date when this game is taking place. This means that if you love games, and I love games with stories, but again, it needs to be something that I like. I can't just dive to anything. I need kind of a world that I will enjoy diving into and want to get lost. And Cyberpunk is the perfect place for me to just get lost in. And in some ways, although it's a fantasy story, still, there are many things that resemble things in current days, in reality. And because of this, there's kind of an emotional connection bond between events that actually happen in the cyberpunk world than things that might bother you with our own reality. Things related to wars, power, money, corruption. Well, you understand where I'm going with this. So one of the things that excited me the most is first reading a lot about the cyberpunk world, especially Cyberpunk 2020 lore, and from this point on, jumping into the story itself by playing the game Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm sure that fans of Cyberpunk, those who actually play the role-playing game or are really familiar with this world, for them it's going to be, and they love playing video games, for them this will be like the best thing that can happen. I still think that in virtuality this game can also look amazing, but maybe it's not ready for it. Maybe not just yet. Anyway, I think this is one of the reasons the developer decided to go with first person only, to be more personal and of course experiencing such verticality in the building and things, just looking at everything from below in first person rather than having the camera atop of the player and viewing kind of a wider angle. I think that first person perspective is the right choice for this game. Now, the second reason is Immersive Cityscape, and this is something I'm so excited about. Now, I played many open world games before, but most of them were kind of felt a bit empty. Even when I played GTA 5, I felt kind of, that I wanted to get into places more freely, and I wanted the city to feel kind of a more futuristic in a way, something that kind of more on the fantasy line instead of something that is close to be more realistic. And this is where Cyberpunk 2077 perfectly fits the bill. Now, no doubt that the city looks amazing, Night City looks amazing at night, and many of the gameplay scenes that we've seen on trailers were actually shot during a night scene because it kind of enhances and emphasizes the colors, the neon signs, so it look more kind of a cyberpunky futuristic. Now, that being said, from what I've seen from the gameplay trailers and the deep dive videos that dev put out, you can see that the city is very rich, very detailed. You can go in many places, even enter buildings, and it just feels so alive. And when we talk about immersion, you can see that there are going to be plenty of people in the city. It's not going to be kind of an abandoned city, post-apocalypse, or with only few people. It's a very lively city. I mean, just seeing all the people just hanging around, doing the stuff, and it feels so authentic. And this is part of the things that really got me excited to get into the game. Like, instead of just going to a place like in Far Cry where there are kind of camps, and you just drive and there's kind of camp and a few enemies. And for me, it felt boring, by the way. This is why I don't play Far Cry anymore. So that's repetitive and not in a good way. And in Cyberpunk 2077, it feels like you are getting into a city. It just feels like a real city with people going on. Probably going to be like things going on in the city, which you can maybe with some interact, and some things just people are going to talk with each other, maybe buy things in the store, and kind of this kind of stuff. So this is really good for giving players the feeling that they're entering a real city rather than something that feels kind of fake, not real. Alright, next thing is guns. But the thing you need to know, and what I've read, and of course I haven't played the game yet, that this is first and foremost a role-playing game. And I think the developer said it somewhere that some players think it's kind of Destiny, where it's first-person shooter with some role-playing gameplay, some mechanics. No, it's not. So it's supposed to be a role-playing game first and foremost with some first-person shooter gameplay elements. Although when we see lots of gameplay, we can see that the first-person shooting is it's kind of something very prominent. But we also know that you can finish the game without even killing a single enemy. Oh, you need to be aggressive, but you won't need to eliminate them. So we know that these people who decide to choose different life paths, have a different background story, will be able to kind of progress in the game in different ways, not just using guns. They can, for example, choose a Netrunner to hack into devices. And there will be an option, of course, to also use melee weapons and stealth. So it's not like this game is designed around being a first-person shooter with RPG elements. Now, all that being said, there are going to be tons of guns. Basically, you're going to have 3 different weapons categories: power weapons, tech weapons, and smart weapons. And there you're going to find plenty of other weapon variations for each one. Now, this includes pistols, shotguns, auto rifles, heavy weapons. You can even shoot with torrent if you have the high body level. They're going to be bow and arrows, they're going to be grenades, there's going to be so much things that you can use in order to eliminate your enemies and create different strategies in order to kind of brute force your way through. But if you read about the lore of Cyberpunk, you know that almost everybody in Night City carries a weapon. I mean, this is a very, very dangerous place. So we're probably going to see some guns and gunfights even happening when we just walk in the street. I mean, I haven't seen anything, but I definitely can expect something like that to happen. Alright, the next thing is replayability, and we know that people will have the option to choose different light paths. Like you see here, you can choose the Nomad, Street Kid, or Cooperate. Now, each one means that you have a different backstory, although I, of course, expect that some things will be in common. It's not going to be like entirely different kind of a story for each one. They're going to be kind of, you're going to start in a different place. You're going to, of course, take a role of a different character in the game. But there will be plenty of things that will distinguish each gameplay. So this means that if you finish the first playthrough with Nomad, you can play the game again with another character, and you're going to have a different experience. Now the choice of the character will affect cutscenes, will affect dialogue, maybe it will affect different missions that you will need to do, because if you start, for example, in Badland, when you play Nomad, you're gonna have missions that won't be available for other type of characters, like if you play Corpo, for example. Now, of course, when you come from also affect the way you interact with NPCs. So this is something that I'm actually looking forward to. When I present myself to a certain NPC as Nomad, I want to see in the next playthrough how things will go when I play, for example, Corpo. Alright, next thing is in-depth character customization. Now, in many RPG games, you can customize your character to make it look, kind of different. Maybe taller, fatter, you can put some, maybe have a mustache or a beard, maybe a tattoo. But here, although you can do some of these options, the way you actually design your character have an impact on the way your character is conceived in Cyberpunk 2077 world. For example, if you put more points into body, you'll be able to carry heavier weapons, or maybe carrying bodies and run with them. And you also have a cool ability, which is something, well, really cool, that will again affect the dialogue, for example, because this is how people perceive you. It's even more than that. You have also classes, which actually define your characteristics of your character. So, for example, if you want to be a good hacker, you probably want to choose Netrunner. If you want to build a character which is strong and carry heavy weapons, you want to go with a kind of a solo character, which emphasize on kind of a strong body build and strength. Now, of course, as you play, you can continue enhancing your character. It's a role-playing game after all, so you're going to have ways to choose cyberware that can replace different parts of your body. You can add modifications, and even increase the perks that define your character, so you can kind of even as you progress, not just when you start the game, you can decide which character you want to be and how you actually enjoy playing the game, and you just go this path. So, for example, you can create an hybrid character, so you can enjoy the benefits of both worlds. For example, being a hacker and a strong one. Although, of course, if you go to the extreme, you're probably going to be very good at specific professions for your character. Anyway, bottom line is that having such an in-depth customization options for your character, including the option to upgrade it as you play, to kind of make the character best fit the way how you want the character to be perceived in the world, and also best fit your favorite playstyle. This is something that I'm really looking to in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, the other thing that I like about the game is that it's uncensored. Although I think it will be an option to censor certain things like nudity, but as an adult gamer, I like the fact that I can play a game which doesn't kind of put a lot of barrier. It's not like it was designed for kind of a young audience, and as an adult, I want a game that just try to portray the world as it is without actually limiting the realism of that world by things related to age restrictions. So again, this is the one thing that I'm excited about, because it will allow me to really feel the place, instead of making it feel like something that is less than what it actually is, as portrayed by the lore of the Cyberpunk 2020, which this game is a continuous of that time period. I need to understand that the idea is that what players will experience should impact them emotionally, because if you create something, a censor barrier, when you try to portray something to the player in this type of very harsh world, you kind of put a restriction of the amount of emotional impact that you can actually deliver through the gameplay, whether it's through gameplay or cutscenes. So that's why I think that when I play the game, I would really feel kind of the place. I really feel how harsh, dangerous, and deadly this place is. Alright, next thing is actions and consequences. Now this, of course, is nothing new to role-playing games. For example, yesterday I just watched a a live stream about Baldur's Gate 3, and there they just take it to the next level. And it's really nice to see all the available options that you have there in the dialogue. Now, the same thing will be here, more or less, in Cyberpunk 2077. Players will have the option to interact with different NPCs, and again, depend how they decide to play the game, this will affect the way NPCs will interact with them. And of course, it depends how you design your character, what points you put in different type of stats. This also have an effect in the game. For example, the developer described a situation where a player, an NPC has a really kind of a rare gun, and the player wants that gun. Now, the player will have the choice to either eliminate that NPC and get the gun, or just decide to spare the life, not have the gun, just because they like that NPC. Now, we don't know about the different options that we have. We're going to probably many different options through the playthrough, but I have a feeling that although some things will affect the end of the game, many of the things will be kind of confined within the interaction with different NPCs. So, for example, if you want to get things, you're probably going to get different things for NPCs when you finish mission, but it depends on how you interact with them. So again, it depends on the scope, but I think in terms of development, it's easier just to, instead of creating like 50 endings of the story, which I don't think it's going to probably be several endings, but not too much, just to make a scope limited to interaction and maybe with different gangs, with different individuals, like fixers, for example. So we can see something probably like that, where you have more options to maybe obtain things, improve your relationship with certain groups or individuals in the game, based of course on your actions. Alright, next thing is multiplayer. Now, we know that multiplayer won't come on day one, but knowing that multiplayer will come eventually to the game is really exciting. Now, I don't know how they're going to do this. Maybe what type of content they will have that will actually support the multiplayer. Is going to be co-op, competitive, both. We don't know yet. Although I personally want to have competitive things, maybe do missions together, hard missions. Maybe it's going to introduce harder missions in future DLCs, and this will be hard. So probably going to have matchmaking or allow people to play cooperatively in order to finish them. Kind of raids-like. I don't expect something kind of really Destiny-like raids, but maybe missions, very hard missions that are very rewarding, but players will probably will need to do this with the team in order to finish them. Kind of a maybe more intensive kind of a nightfall, like like in Destiny, nightfall events that you should do with friends if you want to finish them. Now the next thing is the level design. Oh well, I can't talk forever about this, but try to keep it short. First of all, I really like things having verticality, so seeing kind of big buildings, and especially ones that you can actually enter. I don't know if you can enter every building, but this is something that I'm looking forward to, whether I can find something by just climbing up an interior and just get out and just look up and see beautiful buildings, especially at night. Something I'm looking forward to. Now the next thing is the different districts, because Night City is segmented into 7 different districts. There's the city center, there's the Watson, where the nightclub and skyscrapers are. There's Westbrook, which is to be kind of the best place to live for the rich. We also have Haywood, where the slums are. We have Pacifica, which was before kind of a touristic area. I still have this kind of look, but it overrun by gangs and violence. We have Santo Domingo, which is Night City's oldest district, and Badlands, which is outside of Night City in the desert, where you can, if you choose to be a nomad, you're gonna start your game there. Now this type of creative map design is really nice because when you get to certain places, like you have like a different, everything changes. You're gonna see different people wearing different things. The interaction with NPCs, they're gonna be different. You're just gonna feel a different vibe, and many developers who actually build open world games try to create now this type of maps with a variety. Even in games like battle royale games, like in Fortnite, you can see that the map itself has different zone and each one kind of unique on its own. So again, it's not like you're going to see slight differences. Games could be very prominent differences. So when you move from one place to the other, you're going to have kind of a different experience, different vibe, different feeling, and kind of have a different emotional impact on you. Maybe in some places you're really going to feel unsafe when you know that you start crossing your path there to those locations. Now, last and not least is the community. And when I play games, I really like to feel like I'm part of community of enthusiast people who are very excited about a particular game, and we know this game is going to be huge. Now we can expect also this game to attract many gamers, those who love first-person shooters, those who love role-playing games, those who enjoy The Witcher, and for them it's a must-have to try out another CD Projekt Red game. Those who play the tabletop version of the game really want to try a video game of this one. It's going to be tons of people who are going to play this game. And it would be nice, where I have questions, because this world is so rich, ask some questions with the community, and maybe eventually we're going to play together, because it will feel like jumping to a world, a big world, that you know nothing about, especially me that I haven't kind of had experience with a role-playing game, so I knew little about the lore, and I needed to read more about it, and sometimes ask questions, ask the community questions, to learn more about specific things. But I do hope that eventually we'll get multiplayer so we can actually play with people in the community. But overall, from what I've seen, the community is very excited about this game. Excited maybe is an understatement, but they're very excited playing this game, and I just hope that I can communicate with people even without us being able to play together, kind of share our experiences about this amazing huge world of Cyberpunk 2077. But I do want to play with friends. This is important. Bring it early. So these are my top reasons why I really am looking forward to play Cyberpunk 2077 and recommend other people who maybe haven't considered playing this game to give it a try. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have anything to add, the reasons you like the game, you looking forward to play the game, share it in the comment section below. Consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video if you find it useful and entertaining, and I see you on the next video. Thanks for watching everyone. Cheers. Bye bye.